D-Lo 404 Boxing. This is my second time trying to make this video. I didn't realize the TV was playing in the background the first time. But shout out to the LDBC. Shout out to my subs. Shout out to Marlo's Corner, Trey X, and the whole block fam. I was on the block. I was on Marlo's Corner in the chat section. Listening to Trey X call the fight. And one of the things I said going into the Manny Pacquiao Keith Thurman fight was that I felt like Keith Thurman had about 4 to 5 good rounds in him. And that's kind of how it played out. We all just watched Keith Thurman, who came into this fight talking like Clubber Lang, talking about what all he was going to do to Manny Pacquiao, and talking about himself being the preeminent top guy in the welterweight division. You know, he dismissed Errol Spence. He dismissed Bud Crawford, basically saying that he was the guy. And then he goes out there and can't beat a 40-year-old, past it, former champion with a ton of ring wear, ton of miles on the odometer, and been in a ton of wars. And no discredit for Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao did his thing. But my point is, Thurman did all this talking, trying to talk himself up. And I said in my previous videos that Thurman was trying to psych himself into thinking, trying to make himself believe that he belonged in the ring with Manny Pacquiao. And I'm here to tell you that despite the cards being kind of close, Thurman had no business in the ring with Manny Pacquiao. I give him credit for hanging in there, not folding and just giving up, especially, you know, with the way the early rounds went. I think Manny dropped him in the first round. It may have been the second. I think it was the first. But Keith, with his typical want to come out and pile up rounds early on, that did not work in his favor. Manny Pacquiao was the one putting rounds in the bank. Manny Pacquiao, probably halfway through the fight, Manny Pacquiao was pitching a shutout with a knockdown. Keith Thurman was outgunned. He was outclassed. He was at a speed deficit. He also looked like Manny Pacquiao was the one outthinking him in there. Pacquiao was the one setting traps. So, with all that said, Keith Thurman and his delusions of grandeur can go right on that way. You know, move out of the way and let the guys in the welterweight division who are willing to fight one another fight. Keith Thurman was on the sideline, holding up progress in the welterweight division for a long time. He got back in the trenches. He almost got beat by Josecito Lopez. And then he went from that directly to the Manny Pacquiao fight. If you ask me why was there such urgency for him to go ahead and go to a Manny Pacquiao fight, I said this before. When you come back and you fight Josecito Lopez and you barely escape that fight with a win, you don't want to risk another tune-up versus a credible opponent and mess around and get beat or look bad again. Then that kills your Manny Pacquiao fight. That kills your potential rematch with Danny Garcia or your potential rematch with Sean Porter as being a noteworthy fight. You know, as being an important fight in the division. Because those are the fights that Keith Thurman was interested in. He was interested in a rematch with Danny Garcia and a rematch with Sean Porter. And he was interested in the Manny Pacquiao fight. And he couldn't risk that versus another guy in the vein of a Josecito Lopez, making him look bad. Even if he won, he couldn't have 2 fights like that and then go out, then expect to parlay that into a bigger fight. No one would buy it. I mean, we saw that Pacquiao was heavily favored coming into this fight anyway. You know what I'm saying? But I don't really put a lot of weight in that because I know casuals and non-boxing fans are going to vote for the guy whose name they know. And Pacquiao is the most recognizable boxer in the sport right now. You know, he's the most recognizable active fighter. So the casuals are going to go vote the way of the guy whose name they recognize. But I will say that I think a lot of real boxing pundits and enthusiasts and a lot of boxers and former fighters and current fighters and trainers and all will also voting for Pacquiao or expecting Pacquiao to win. And then you had some that just felt like the age was going to be too much and Keith Thurman would win. But, you know, for reasons I've said in other videos, I couldn't see Keith Thurman beating Manny Pacquiao. And I certainly didn't see him stopping Manny Pacquiao, which is what a lot of people were saying. That picked him to win was that he was going to stop Pacquiao. I just couldn't see that. So, be that as it may, Keith Thurman took his first L. Manny Pacquiao just further solidified his legendary status with a win at 40 years old over a champion who is supposed to be in his physical prime, or a lot closer to his physical prime than Manny. And Manny Pacquiao did so in dominant fashion, in my opinion. Keith Thurman was playing catch-up for the whole second half of the fight. And even then, he was still losing rounds here and there because Pacquiao just would not allow him to take the play away. And in my opinion, when it came down the stretch to the championship rounds, I'd say by round 10, Keith Thurman needed a KO to win. He at least needed a knockdown or two. But I felt like he needed. I felt like he needed a KO. And I know that one of the judges actually scored it for Keith. So you know, it's all about your vantage point. But that's the way I saw it. But anyway, much respect to Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman. Go do something you love to do. I think boxing is just a business for you, and I think that you know, if I think at this point, you know, some fighters time to go in the sport comes early. I think it's time for Keith Thurman to get out of the sport of boxing. I think he's been on borrowed time for quite some time now, and I think that time's run out on him. I made a video saying that Father Time would not save Keith Thurman, and I think that held true. You know, Father Time did his part, but Father Time wasn't a big enough factor. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, Manny Pacquiao, his age is going to fully catch up with him, but I knew Keith Thurman was not the fighter to be able to exploit Manny Pacquiao's age and his shortcomings due to his age. That said, Manny Pacquiao got the W. It remains to be seen what he does next, but I don't want to see a rematch, and I don't want to see him fight some obscure opponent just to get a fight in. I want to see, you know, Manny Pacquiao in there with one of the top guys. And Ugas, I think, just became the WBC mandatory, but that fight doesn't have to happen right away. So I'm not interested in seeing that fight anytime soon. And I actually think the way Ugas stands straight up at times, if he got in close to Manny Pacquiao, he'd be a sitting duck for Manny Pacquiao to hit him with something short and crisp and drop him. But that said, I'm going to get on out of here. It's D-Lo 404 Boxing. Shout out to the LDBC. Once again, shout out to the Block fam, Marlo's Corner, Trey X, and everyone else that was on the panel, everyone that was in the chat. It's been a good weekend of fighting. It's been a great Saturday. I didn't get anything done around the house because all I did once the afternoon came was sit around looking at boxing. But that's all right. You got to take that downtime sometime. D-Lo 404 Boxing. I'm out. Peace.